Oh, everybody, it is the Battle of the Bocks. This is a viewer request. One of our subscribers, Niall, requested that we do an epic, one of the most epic beer battles I could possibly think of, the Battle of the Bocks. The original Doppelbock, the Paulaner Salvator, going head-to-head against the Aventinus Weisse Doppelbock from Schneider Weisse. Two of the original beers in the space, Paulaner, of course, being the original Doppelbock, and the Aventinus here being the original wheat Doppelbock. Coming a little later, it's not quite a couple hundred years old like the Salvator is, but I believe in 1917, man, was when it was first brewed. Am I right on that one?
I think you might be right. I'm not 100% sure. I don't remember like the exact
1907
time frame, but yeah, no, for sure it's a little bit younger than the original Doppelbock.
Normally we do a little ceremonial pouring out of the beers. My Aventinus here has already poured out. I had a little bit of a beer accident before starting the filming of the episode, dropping the can and spraying beer everywhere, all over the set. So let's get right into this, buddy. We can talk about these beers a little bit as we're pouring them out, but let's get them ready to go to start this battle.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I can see you have both cans. I
do.
Can only find the Paulaner in a bottle, as you can see. But that's okay. That's okay. At least we both can find the beers.
I'm having so many can malfunctions today. This is an omen, a dark omen of things to come with this beer battle.
Oh, I can already smell this Aventinus here.
It's so strong, right? Isn't it intense?
It's amazing.
Mine's already been sitting for a little bit, so the head's died down a little bit, but you'll see on Alessandro's here when he pours it out how much of a thick, effervescent head there is on the Aventinus.
It has nice little thick head.
Oh my God,
dissipates. Like I didn't pour quite much to leave space for the nose and aroma, but it had quite a bit of a head like when I first poured it.
Man, I'm so excited for this one. You can smell it, right? Like the Aventinus, the aroma just fills the room. It's crazy.
All right,
buddy.
Are we ready?
Let's get right into this versus battle. Cheers. Aroma cheers.
Aroma cheers to you, my friend.
Wow. This is gonna be a tough one.
Yeah, this is a battle. This really is a battle.
I just want to sip. I just want to go in for a sip. I'm so thirsty right now.
Oh wow. Ooh, this is tough. Let me put them away because I keep wanting to try and take a sip.
I know. Okay.
I'll resist. For me, they're quite different, but also similar in the sense that you can say that they both have like a strong presence, but in a completely different way. Like the Aventinus has more of that estery wheat presence, but it's still surrounded by a very complex like malt character, while the Paulaner goes more in the bready,
liquid bread,
leaning into more cake-like bread, heavy bread, malt characteristic.
Totally. Called liquid bread for a reason.
It's tough. Do we have to pick?
Yeah, we got to. We have to. It's our duty.
That's fair. I think I'm going to stay with the Paulaner for this on the aroma. I think I'm enjoying like bready, deep malt quite a bit. What do you think, my friend? What's your impressions?
The Paulaner's got such a delicious aroma, like you said. I mean, they call it liquid bread, like we said, for a reason. It's just so bready, so deep, dark, and bready. A little bit of hops, a little bit of sweetness on there, and then you got the Aventinus. Whew. Fruit, like you said, the estery from that you would expect from a wheat beer, those types of characters, but also like a dark plum, like a dark fruit on there. You know what? It's amazing. It's delicious. It's really unique. For me personally, I don't enjoy like sweet fruit on the aroma of my beers. I think I'm going to go with the Paulaner as well on this one. So 2 points for the Salvator to start off. Now, buddy, let's get into the best part, the taste.
Let's do
Cheers.
it. Cheers.
Oh, wow. That's Salvator.
Oh, my goodness. That's so good.
You know, it's amazing that we haven't talked about the Aventinus on the channel up to now. Like, it's such an historic, incredible beer, and we will do a full review. We have to do a full review of it one time to really dig deep into it. Like in these versus battles, don't really have too much time to go deep into the history of it, but we'll get to it in the purest form of beer conversation that is a Beer Brackets beer review one day. So what do you think right now? Taste. Which one takes it?
taste. Like
The Paulaner's got a lead here, 2-0.
yeah, it just occurred to me, like in the taste, I think it's pretty obvious how these are also two different realms. Like we have an ale here and a lager on the other side.
That's an important distinction for sure. Yeah.
And I don't know for me, but like on the taste, and I know that's leaning a little bit into the mouthfeel, but the presence it's quite different. I think the descriptors you had about the plum and dark fruit like sticks around like quite more on the taste for me for the Aventinus, while the Paulaner kind of like has that initial breadiness that then kind of like elevates a little bit and turns into those like a little bit more ethereal notes of
I love that, the ethereal.
Crust and slightly burnt, but like deep malt flavors again, like. And I mean, they're so complex, and the taste, even just without getting into the finish, evolves so much. But I think, just as a personal preference, I'm gonna still stick with the Salvator. So that's has like a little bit more of an edge. What do you think, my friend?
It does, yeah. They both have like this deep breadiness. Of course, like the breadiness on the Aventinus, it's a little bit more of a weedy breadiness, being that it is a wheat beer. With the Paulaner, it's a little bit more of like a toasted bread breadiness. It's a little darker. It's a little deeper. Talk about wheat beers having like a banana taste. I always thought the Aventinus was like the perfect embodiment of that. Like I get mostly banana. I know it's subjective, but when I take a sip of it, it's like a bready banana. I was like, banana bread. It's very much like
really
banana
is.
bread. I wasn't sure which one I was going to go with on the taste, but I think I'm going to go with the Aventinus for this one. I'm really enjoying how the estery flavors mix with the weediness and create like this really sort of balanced, delicious tasting beer that makes you want to go in for another sip. So the Paulaner's up 3-1 at this point, my friend. But now we get into the mouthfeel. What do you think? Which one's going to take it? Because obviously you got the wheat beer, the creamy mouthfeels compared to the meal replacement liquid bread.
That's the thing, like the liquid bread like has so far been victorious, I have to say.
So far.
I'm just going to take a quick sip, a quick reading here.
Please do. It's heavily encouraged. I'm so happy that subscriber Niall recommended that we do this video. And by the way, everybody, please let us know down below. As you see, this is finally, we do try and get to these requests whenever we can. Some of them we might not be able to get to if we can't both get the beers, let's say for review where we are. But definitely let us know, as you have been down below, if there's any versus battles you'd like to see, any reviews you'd like to see, post them down below. And if we can get to them, we will prioritize them and get to them as soon as we can.
For sure. It's always a pleasure. Like I feel like it gets our viewers like to be part of the video, which is something I love. So it's great. So my friend, on the mouthfeel, like I would say the Aventinus, it's a little bit richer. It definitely has more presence. Salvator, has a little bit more carbonation, at least in my bottle version here. Normally, like I would say, like if a beer tends to have a little bit more oiliness, like it tends to be not something that I lean towards. But the Aventinus doesn't do that at all. Like it has a very rich presence without being overwhelming.
Yeah.
However, I'm still going to stick with the Salvator because I really like that extra carbonation. I feel like just it elevates all the flavors a little bit more. So that's where I'm leaning so far. What do you think?
4-1 for the Salvator. I was wondering how this was going to do because we've said on the channel before that we don't. It's subjective, but we don't always necessarily appreciate sweeter flavors in our beer, and the Aventinus is very sweet. So I was curious, breaking it down category by category like this, which one would come out on top. I think, the Paulaner, it has like that strong, crisp carbonation, like you said, which is very different from the more creamy mouthfeel that you get on a wheat beer. But you know what? I always find those wheat beer mouthfeels to be so inviting. For me, it's actually one of the best parts of a wheat beer. I'm not the biggest wheat beer drinker. There aren't that many that I'll choose over something else necessarily. I'm actually preferring the mouthfeel on the Aventinus. I think I'm going to give them a point, bump them up to 4-2 here. I think the creaminess is a little bit of a more interesting vessel, let's say, for the deep, dark, bready characters and the estery characters that you get. I used the descriptor of banana bread before, and I think the creaminess is sort of like a really interesting conduit for those banana bread flavors to bring them to you. I'm going to give the point to the Aventinus on the mouthfeel here, which I didn't expect. I thought I would go with the more carbonated Paulaner, so we're at 4-2. This is big. We're at 4-2 right now, my friends. Now we get to the finish. The finish of these two wonderful doppelbocks. Which one comes out on top for you?
So the finish is always like where all the elements are getting like more interesting because they get to be tied back in together, and then sometimes like bring surprises.
They have a good time.
Let me start saying that they are both like very complex.
Yeah.
I think that the Salvator goes a little bit more in the classic lager direction, and in the sense that it does showcases like still a lot of malt layers, but there is a little bit of hop presence, a little bit of bitterness. I find, like, especially comparing them like this, like you can really tell it has like a little bit of an edge. The Aventinus, on the other hand, like has, like you said, all those delicious layers of fruit. Banana definitely is a big descriptor there. But I like what you said, like the prunes, like those dark fruits, like they definitely showcase like a little bit more for me in the finish. I think on the finish, I'm going to go with the Aventinus because I think that extra elements towards the end like are making it a little bit more interesting. What do you think?
It's interesting having them side by side like this because they both have such really strong, distinct, very unique mouth finishes. The Paulaner in itself, for me, it's like very, very bready on the finish, which is what you'd expect. A little bit of fruitiness there as well. A little bit of the hop character there. This beer overall is so malty, but it's very, very, very malty on the finish, which is delicious. I love it. And then you have the same thing with the Aventinus, but like you just said, the fruitiness is there as well. Some really nice banana, some prune, dark fruit characters. I find there's a little bit of like, you taste the alcohol on the Aventinus. I don't know if do you find the same thing? I find there's like a little bit of a burny tinge sort of like on the finish.
I can definitely see what you mean. Like I'd say like the alcohol presence is a little bit more prominent. I think from
it's 8.2.
8.2.
It's a very
so it's what
the Paulaner 7.9
more.
0.3% more, yeah. So it's not necessarily that much more, but it is enough that there could be a noticeable difference.
Oh, for sure.
But it's interesting because on the Paulaner there isn't like an alcohol presence at all. At least I don't find. But on the Aventinus, I noticed that. But you know what? It works well. It sort of balances out with the fruitiness. I'm going to give the point to the Aventinus. I think it has a little bit more of an interesting finish to it. Man, we're tied. We got 4-4 after 4 categories. The Battle of the Bocks is coming down to the final category. This is the most epic thing I could possibly imagine happening, my friend. You're doing the fists. Fists. Yeah. Well, we're down to now the overall beer experience. So for anybody who hasn't watched a Beer Brackets versus Battle or Review before, the overall experience is the drinking experience from beginning to end, including all the intangibles that feelings you might have about the beer memories that might be lingering in the background in the distance. That might be coming to play. As an overall beer experience, my friend, which one do you prefer?
So I think after a little bit of beer meditation and then trying to be an accurate beer barometer, I think...
Please do.
I am going to go with the Paulaner, the Salvator, because to me, the element here that makes me lean towards that is, as an overall beer experience, is that it tends to lean more towards the maltiness without being too sweet. Not that the Aventinus is necessarily overly sweet. I don't think that at all. I just think that for my personal preference, like the Paulaner has a little bit more of a balance there towards the maltiness that I really enjoy. Like, so sorry, Aventinus, but I had to go with the Salvator, the original double bock.
I'm going to agree with you, my friend. It's going to be a point for the Paulaner, and I think it takes this versus battle. It had to be. I think the best indicator is if you look down at the table here, you'll see how much more of the Paulaner I drank as opposed to the Aventinus. I think this is a good sign. I kept going back to the Paulaner more than this is actually the perfect barometer right here. When you're comparing the two, which one have you drank more of by the end of it when going in for sips? And so there you go, everybody. Pitting, this is probably the most epic versus battle we've ever done. These historic German Doppelbocks being pinned against each other for, I'm assuming, the first time in history. Even if it's been done before, this is, let's forget about that for now. This is the first time it's ever been done. And we have a winner. Everybody let us know down below. What do you think? Have you tried these two? Which one do you prefer? They're very different. So I'm assuming we're going to get some very different reactions to this one, but let us know which one you prefer down below. We have a victor. I don't know if you saw this, buddy, but on our Paulaner Salvator review, people seemed excited about us doing the Paulaner Salvator fast next Lent, so we might actually do this.
I'm a little scared about that.
we found out that Lent is like 40 days, so we might not do a strictly Paulaner fast for 40 days. I think our wives would frown upon that, and our employers might not appreciate that. But we might do, let's say, maybe a day. We'll see. Maybe a few hours.
We'll see. Maybe if exactly. Like maybe we can stretch it to a day if people like write enough in the comments. We'll see.
And we will heavily document our Paulaner Salvator beer fest if people want it bad enough. So let us know down below if that's something you'd be interested in. Cheers, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And never forget to close your German Doppelbock beer brackets.
Never forget.